So they tell me my hair couldn't grow because it was salt, but it's growing. I'm going to tell you right now, this one is for the black women. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you back. This is episode 2 of a few of my favorite things versus limiting beliefs. And in case you haven't guessed it, another one of my favorite things is black hair. For a long time, women, especially black women, have struggled with our hair. The way it looks, the way it feels, the maintenance process. And we were told that it's no good, it's too hard, it's too thick, it's too untidy, it's too unprofessional. These negative descriptions of our hair started to build our hair story. And from the days of slavery into colonialism and even up to today, it still remains the hair story for a lot of us. Sad, but true. Like we all know too well, we have been asked to tame our hair because the kinks and the coils and the curls just stand up and do whatever they want to do. It's interesting, it's almost symbolic, right? That because of the texture of our hair, it kind of stands up and fights or rebels against what other people want it to do because it doesn't want to succumb to their standard of beauty, to their standard of acceptable. Think about the amount of gel it requires, especially for us type 4 girls, to lay down our hair. It's almost as if it's a battle against what naturally happens versus what we want to happen or versus what we've been told should happen. It's almost like edge control. No matter how much you put, it's only going to stay down for a while or not at all. What control does our hair really need? Why does it need to be controlled? It's been called untamed, unruly, unappealing. I'll tell you right now, I would rather be unruly and show up as my natural self than to be tame and feel uncomfortable because I'm subscribing to someone else's standard of beauty. I'm not coming down on any woman who straightens her hair or who uses wigs and weaves as a regular style. I can't come down on you, sis. I have worn those styles, and maybe in another life, I will again. And let's face it, for a lot of us, we kind of have to adjust the way we look for work purposes or for school purposes because then we wouldn't be accepted in those spaces. Just recently, there was a young man in the news all over social media as well, kicked out of school just because he had locks. It's stupid and it's crazy, but it is true. And for a lot of people, acceptance into certain circles requires adjustment and it requires that so-called taming of our hair. I feel fortunate that in my particular situation, I don't have to necessarily tame my hair to enter into my workplace or into any academic space because I am accepted as I am, thankfully. And I really don't think that I could thrive or survive in a space where I am asked to control my hair because there's nothing uncontrollable about me. I am perfectly fine as I am, as I was created. And I stand on that. I stand on that because of how I genuinely feel like more of myself when I wear my hair in its natural state. And I can say that confidently because I've worn my hair in various different styles and I've cut my hair 3 times in my lifetime. In fact, 3 times within the last, let me see, 12 years. So I know how I feel with my natural hair, with my hair as it is now, because I've tried different ways and it doesn't feel right to me. That's why I say I can't come down on anybody for wearing their hair how they want to. My only hope is that we embrace our hair in its natural state, at least once in our lifetime, to just see how we feel, to just feel that freedom of Being authentically you, being naturally you in the way that you were created. Girlfriend, nothing is wrong if you wear your wigs and your weaves and your braids. Our hair is versatile and it can accommodate those styles and it can elevate those styles, quite frankly. And for a lot of us, it is an expression of our creativity and it also pays homage to our culture and to our ancestry. So I love to see it. I actually do love to see braids, tapered cuts. I always say if I cut my locks, I'll definitely have a tapered cut again. The thing that worries me though is when we kind of become afraid of our natural hair because of how uncontrollable we've been told it is. And for some of the traumatic experiences that we've had with our natural hair. I know for me, my childhood experience with my natural hair was not pretty because my hair wasn't as soft and as curly and as luscious as my sister's own were. And nobody knew how to deal with my hair. And it wasn't until I became an adult and I cut everything off and start again that I understood how to deal with my hair. I understand how to love my hair, how to embrace my hair, and knew that it could actually grow. Because, like I said, they told me that I had a salt head, and in my culture, that means that your hair can't grow. It's almost like it's impossible for your hair to grow, and that's crazy because naturally hair grows unless you have alopecia or some other condition. Hair naturally grows. It's so crazy how these stories are told to us and they become our own stories even though they are nonsensical. It's just a matter of you taking care of yourself, learning who you are, and going from there. It's funny how sometimes I think about the black hair movement that just came and kind of took over the media a few years ago, where everybody was doing the big chop and everybody was using all of these lines of products, the Shea Moisture, the Camille Rose, the this and the that. And it just seemed like our natural cells are being sold back to us, and it's the craziest thing to think about, where something that naturally occurs to us has to be sold to us in a very commercial and profitable way for us to actually say, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I should love my hair. But one thing that came out of it that was really positive was the fact that we had to learn and relearn ourselves. Because with all of these products on the market, we now got into this trend of testing and seeing which works for us. So some women will say, yeah, Shea Moisture is it. Shea Moisture works perfectly for me. Another woman will say, Shea Moisture doesn't work for my hair at all. And this idea of what works and what doesn't work came out of trial and error, came out of learning our hair, came out of taking the time to embrace and understand who we are. And that's the beautiful thing about the natural hair movement. And I have to say, I'm very happy and proud that I was so invested in YouTube at the time when the natural hair movement was making waves across the media that I started to learn a lot about my hair as well. I'm actually happy to see the revolution that it caused, where Black women actually started to embrace their own hair. The biggest takeaway that I got from the natural hair movement a few years ago was that a lot of women said they did not even know what their natural hair looked like or felt like because they were getting their hair processed from the time that they were young. So they never knew what their own hair looked like. They never knew. And that was so interesting to me because even though my own natural hair story from childhood is somewhat traumatic, I actually knew what my hair looked like and felt like because natural hair was embraced. It's just that mine wasn't understood, so nobody could love it, including me. But hearing women say, especially North American women or African American women, as some of them identify, that it took them doing their first big chop at 20 something or 30 something years of age. that they were actually seeing and feeling their natural hair texture for the first time in their lives. That idea resonated with me so much because it was astonishing that something that naturally occurs wasn't even known to you, your own thing, your own your own thing. It wasn't even known by you. And that's the part that scares me. Because if we are taught to hate something, if we are taught that something is so bad, so unacceptable, so unsightly, that we're not even allowed to see it or feel it because it means that we'll be bashed socially, it begs the question, how can we truly love ourselves? How? Because you're taught self-hate from so young. And truth be told, our parents don't mean to teach us self-hate, you know. They're actually scared for us that we're not going to be able to survive in this society if we don't adjust, if we don't adapt, if we don't conform. So they do what they think they need to do to help us to fit in, you know, to match the status quo so that we will get into that school or we will get that job or we will get the husband that we want. It's so baffling, but it was a survival tactic, right? But now that we are growing out of, in a lot of ways, not in every way, but growing out of that era where we have to conform to everything that is outside of us, how about we start embracing who we are? I feel like we have enough resources these days through articles, books, videos, testimonials, documentaries about the way we should look after our hair. And I feel like we have enough people who stand as living examples who are able to thrive in their respective fields, even though they embrace themselves and decide not to conform. We all know Issa Rae. Issa Rae rocks her hair on her show Insecure like nobody's business. From style to style, we've seen the styles improve and get even hotter from one season to the next, right? And it's so interesting that in a Vogue interview a few years ago, she said that there was a time in her life when she conformed to the status quo and she did what she had to do to make her hair look prettier and more presentable so that she would be accepted in certain circles. But all that did was damage her hair. And it wasn't until she decided, I'm not going to damage my hair anymore. I'm going to embrace my hair. I'm going to take care of my natural hair. That she realized that it didn't make sense to do all of that. And it was much more beneficial to her, health wise and otherwise, if she would just accept the hair as it grew out of her head. Her words, not mine. But I can't help but agree with her because the same happened for me. When I accepted my hair as it grew out of my head and actually allowed it to grow and do what it wanted to do without listening to people who were saying, oh, your hair wouldn't grow and oh, locks won't suit you and those locks are not going to make it and whatnot and whatnot. I didn't listen to any of that nonsense. When I allowed my hair to grow and do what it did, I started to feel more beautiful, more in tune with who I am. In fact, my locks are actually an expression of my spirituality. I'm not a religious person, but I consider myself very spiritual. I know that there's a higher power. I believe in a higher power and I honor a higher power because I believe that we cannot possibly exist on our own and everything around us just spring up out of nowhere. There has to be something responsible. But my hair helps me to feel more connected. And the feeling that I get from embracing my hair is so powerful to me that I can't help but hope that every woman gets to experience that. Honestly, it's something that is so deeply rooted in who I have grown into and in who I pride myself on being that I really hope that every woman, every man even, gets to embrace that feeling that when you take care of your hair, when you treat it as a naturally occurring part of you that deserves all the love, all the love, that it does something so miraculous for you that it cannot even be properly described in words. Sister girl, babes, do what works for you at the end of the day. But my hope is at least one time in your life, you will see and feel your natural hair in the way that the Almighty created you and intended for you so that you can enjoy yourself in your most natural state. And I promise you that somewhere along the line, if you give it some time, you will love it so much that you'll be very grateful that you gave yourself that opportunity. Try it. Try it. If nothing else, love yourself so much that your hair not only becomes a part of your expression, but it becomes your crown, one that you wear with pride, one that you wear because you know you deserve it, and one that you're not afraid to adjust when the going gets tough. Babes, if you don't embrace all of you, from your crown to your soul, are you really okay? I'll leave this one here for today. I look forward to seeing you on episode 3. Love and light.